So next I'm going to turn this layer off, and then I'm going to create some new artwork so we can look at some additional things that we can do with keyframes to make our animations more engaging and more interesting. First thing that I want to do is I want to bring in a background. So if I go under File and choose Import Images, I'm going to browse for the image that I want to bring in, and that's not it. I want to bring in this image that I have found. It's in the public domain, no attribution necessary, so it's legal and legit to use. And we'll see that we have some different options here. If I'm just going to be using it as is, I don't need to worry too much about any of the other options. Down the road we'll look at what some of the other options are, but because I'm just going to use it as is, I can now bring that image into my project. We can see it is now sitting down behind, and what I want to do is to now select this image, and if we want to scale it, we can simply put a control on it. And now I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so I can see, hold down Shift, and scale up this image so it fits into my document. Grab Translate, move it over because I want the lower section. Oh, looks like we need to go a little bit bigger. Now if I use this, now I could have scaled it disproportionately. I could have just stretched it to fill the area, and that would have worked too. Alright, so now we look, we can see that's what the finished artwork is going to look like, and I'm going to then create my character on top of this. Now that I'm done with that layer, I'm done with the ball layer. We're going to just lock those. It's a good practice to lock whatever layers you're not currently working with so you don't accidentally select the wrong one. Now it's time to build the character that I wish to work with to start our journey into cutout animation. So I've made a quick rough layer here that I'm going to work with while I'm animating. Now we'll notice light table's on, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Turn it on or off. It's like, what's going on? Why? I can turn these other layers off and see what I drew, but I mean, the only one I know I'm not going to keep is the ball, so we'll just turn that off for now. But I can't really see my rough very well. But if I grab a drawing or painting tool, like the brush or the pencil, then we can see how light table does indeed work. So what we're going to do with this is I'm going to now start creating a series of layers, and we're not going to do all of them, but I've also strategically positioned my character so that I'm just going to work on creating a body, a head, and some arm parts that we're going to need. Now, each item that you wish to move independently generally has to be on its own layer. So each arm is probably going to take 3 layers. We have an upper arm, lower arm, and hand. Upper arm, lower arm, and hand. We'll have a head, and then I will leave the neck attached to the torso. And if I was animating the rest of the character, I would also break the legs down. I'd probably have the hips separate from the torso, and then I would have an upper leg, lower leg, and foot. So it's possible that your characters, if you do a full cutout rig, you can have dozens and dozens of layers as part of it. So this is where we're going to go and make some new layers here. And for this one, I'm going to call this one torso. And if I type it in and just hit return on the keyboard or enter, it adds the layer, but it doesn't close this dialog out. So I can now make a number of different layers that I'll be able to use as I start creating artwork. Now I'll say head. So we have torso, head, and then we commonly end up referring to arms as front and rear versus left and right, but we can also call it left and right. In this case, I'm going to do it. So we had torso, we had the head. Now I'm going to L underscore upper underscore arm, L underscore lower underscore arm. You aren't allowed spaces, so we either have to use camel casing or underscores to name things. And then we'll have L hand. And we'll have R underscore upper underscore arm, R underscore lower underscore arm, and R underscore hand. So I've now created a whole slew of layers that we are going to be working with, and now I can say close. So there's a couple of different ways that we can go about putting these in and working with it. And each person is really going to have their own preference of how they wish to create their different things. Sometimes you might start with a complete drawing and then start cutting it into pieces using the select cutter tool. So we might use the cutter to cut what you've drawn into pieces and then paste those onto different layers. Other times we might just draw them all separately as we work with it. So I'm going to click on the torso layer so that that is active, and then we'll work on adding in the arms, and then we'll add in the head. So I'm just going to clean this up a little bit so I don't have as many layers of stuff. Now, one thing you'll notice as I do this, I am continuing the neck up so that I can move the head separately from that. So we just got to do a little bit drawing here. Put this in. I'm not going to be super precise in the interest of the video because that's not really what the focus is going to be about. So I've got my kind of orcish, goblinish, I don't know, some sort of character that I'm working on. Probably we'll figure out some coloring that we wish to put on this character. We'll work on a custom color palette and learn about doing that, but that now gives me the core part of what I'm working on. I'm not going to do any coloring until after I have all of my different parts drawn. Now for drawing the head, I'm going to find it's just going to be a lot easier if I'm zoomed in a little bit so I have more precision on my drawing. So yeah, this is a relatively kind of happy character. He's not a grumpy or malicious character. That's the motivation that I'm seeing as part of this. Got kind of one tooth sticking out. So I'm gonna need some cheeks, come in for a chin. Now it's the type of thing that you really could animate. If on a full character rig, I would be separating out and animating the ears, because ears are really, you know, I can make them, especially when they're big like this, I can make them wiggle. I can have lots of fun. I decided he gets more hair than my initial sketch had as part of it. And since I'm trying to just keep a consistent line weight, it's hard to get all the detail into it that I want, but that'll work for now. And you know, we're just adding in the left upper arm. Move this around. The spacebar gives you the hand tool so that you can quickly move around on your screen, so that's something to keep in mind. You'll notice that I'm not closing the edges on these. I'm not closing because I will then use the stroke tool to do that before I start filling my artwork as I work with it. I mean, we can. I mean, I'm going to close it at the wrist there because the hand is going to sit on top. We'll set that up like that. Now we have the other arm. Now we set the upper arm there. Lower arm. And finally, last hand, I think. That was the correct line. Let's turn off the rough so we can kind of see how the lines are lining up. Okay. So a little bit off on that forearm there. Now we can use H and J to work our way through our different layers as we're doing this. So maybe I'm going to want to adjust that. And we'll figure out how this, you know, what we do and don't need as we go forward with it here. But to start. So now what I want to do is I want to add in a new color. And I'm going to give this a name. Call it skin. Decided he gets to kind of be go in that kind of purplish range there, saturate a little bit more. Now we're going to go with purple today instead of green skin because, well, we can. I'm going to just make it a little bit lighter in value, pull it up so that it will contrast with what's there. And now if I hit the plus key right there, now I can go shirt, and for a shirt he's going to get more of a brown colored shirt to go contrast that, and then we'll add in another color. This will be his shorts, and his shorts are going to be a blue tone. And we need some hair, so we add one more color this time for the hair. And the hair is going to be vibrant orangish color because I can. Why not, right? All right, so now if I bop over to the head, grab the hair. We can see I got a little opening there. So if I grab the paint bucket tool, we'll want the closed gaps to be on. Now we can see the large gap. Now ideally we always want to work with the smallest possible option so we don't get those extra pieces like that show up. Alright, oh, but that was the skin color. Let's try again. Okay, orange for the hair. Now grab the skin and the skin. With this, I know it's a closed shape, so I'm going to say don't close gap so it will grab more of it in one shot. Well, don't want to color the lines. I might, but not on this particular option. Well, might need to zoom in a little bit to get better control over what's happening here. I almost think I want to put some blue around that, but now we'll go grab white. And it's got a white tooth, white around the eyes. Alright, so we don't have any shading. We're not doing multicolor. We're just keeping it really, really simple so far on this character. Now, as I move into this one, we'll see I need to use the stroke tool. And I'm going to close the gap around the neck here. So with the stroke tool selected, we'll close the gap at the neck and turn off the head, or if we just solo this layer. Don't quite know where the white came from. So I choose my skin tone because I want that. Now let's... Alright, so let's go back and grab the stroke tool. And now this time it's added a stroke, but it won't be visible. Yeah, we know that. Okay, so now with that selected, grab the paint, grab the skin, and fill it. I'm not quite sure why that stroke was misbehaving that much up there, but it's not the end of the world. We can see I need to add a stroke down here on the legs. And now the stroke tool is behaving. Grab the paint bucket and we don't want to okay, let's turn on strokes and let's see what's there. View, show, stroke, and looks like I might have not hit it quite correctly, so close that gap there. And now it's closed. Okay, now go find shorts and shirt. So the nice part about, don't hit the line, doing this is once we start getting all our colors in, we may decide that we don't like the color, because I'm not sure, I'm not sold on that shirt color, so we might have to change that. But all I have to do is just change my swatch and it updates. Or if I want to change the skin, I can update the skin. So now if we stop soloing it, we can see how we're getting closer to enough light table. So things are starting to shape up. So there's my creature. Yeah, I really don't like his shirt color, so we're just going to go change it now. And the best part is, with it selected, I can see it live update. Okay. Red is not, it's not a bad color on him. I like that. And now the hair, I'm not loving the orange anymore. So with that, let's bring him into the greens. I like that better. All right. So now we're back to working on the arms. So turn back on light table so it's easier to see. And with the arms, we're going to have to close out that gap. I lost my cursor for a moment. It blends in sometimes, and fill. Okay, so that was a lower arm. Go into an upper arm here. And the upper arm, as I'm looking at it, we might need to draw a little bit more because I didn't really leave anywhere in the shirt for it, where the right arm kind of comes behind, so I think that one's going to work, but this one is going to, I think, need a little bit of love there. And apparently there's still a gap. That's why it's useful to work zoomed in while you're doing things, so you can find those gaps. If you do have a mouse wheel, you can use that. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. Let's try again. Space bar, that's what I wanted. And as long as I'm on the hand here, we'll try and fill that. Go down to the lower arm. It's not going to close yet, but we can close it that way. Grab the paint and fill it. And then move on to, oh, not the hand, the upper arm here. And you may have noticed there is a close gap tool, and that always closes everything with a perfectly straight line. So it works, and in this, for up here it would work, but here where we will need more extending out, then that doesn't work as well. So if I just go here, it gives me that straight line. But on the end of the arm where it overlaps with the elbow, I don't want it to be cut straight. I need the fill color to extend out. And as we get more experience, we're going to learn additional techniques on how we can do this in a more automated process that can actually be more efficient as we work. So now I'm going to go back and grab my black. I'm going to grab my pencil tool and go to the left upper arm. Grab a space bar to move over. And now with that, I'll just kind of close it out because it's going to move in front of the body. So now I have my artwork created. I have my character. Now we can leave the rough off, turn off light table, we can see how it looks. I'm going to quit looking at my strokes, so that cleans it up. All right, so now I have my character, and it's going to animate on top of this background. So if I want to animate these things, what I first have to do is add in pegs to each of the layers that I'm working with, and then set all of my pivot points. So this will be a multi-step process, but once I do it, then I'm good to go. Then I'm ready to animate. So what I'm going to do is select all of my layers and then click on the Add Peg icon. when I do that, it adds a peg for each layer. Then I'm going to collapse all of them. So we can see how each drawing layer is now a child. So we have this whole parent-child relationship. But it's much easier, especially when you have limited screen real estate as we're working with it. Now, to give myself a little bit more room, something I can do is to go and... So when we're short on screen real estate and want to make this a little easier to see, what we can do is go and choose toggle full screen. But the key thing about that is we need to pay attention to where our active window is. So if I toggle full screen with my camera active, I hit it once, the program goes full screen, I go again, and it solos that window. Hit it again, it goes back to normal. But if my timeline is active, and now I toggle full screen twice, now I just see the timeline. So that's just a handy way to get into this, and then again I'll toggle full screen a third time, Command or Control F, Mac or Windows, to get back to what you need. So now what I want to do is to add in, and this is where, if I click to add a peg, it says, change to display all mode, okay, whatever. But what I can do is just with one of my layers active, add in an additional peg. Now this time, I'm going to rename this one. This will be my master P, or master peg. So this is going to be the peg that controls all of it. So if I want to move everything of my character, that's what I use. Then what I can do is select all of the other layers. So I click on one, hold down Shift, click on the rest, or I can, actually that's the only way to do it. So click, Shift click, that selects all the layers, and now I can drag that. And if we drag it, we can see if I drag it onto hand P, it's putting this black bar indicating they will all be children of hand P. But I want it to be children of master, because otherwise it's not going to quite work. So I drag until my cursor is on master P. They're now children of it. And now I'm just going to take this layer here, drag it back up so it's in the same order we made it before. So now I can collapse the master peg. So you can see this now simplifies our timeline quite a bit. Now our character only appears in frame 1 because that's where we drew it. So now if I exit full screen, we're here, and now if I move to frame 2, it goes away. So we're going to want our character to appear in all the frames, and we'll extend his exposure using F5 in a little bit. But first, now that we have the master peg set for the character, we want to set the pivot point for the master peg. Currently the master peg pivot point is set in the center of the screen, which is the same place every other peg layer is going to be set until we start relocating them. So now I'm going to, typically we put it between the feet of the character or at the hips. Those are common places to put the master peg for a character. So I'm just going to put it between the legs there. We'll just go to 100% view. That's full screen. Now if I click on the right hand, and remember we're using the advanced animation rotation tool, this will permanently set a peg. So now I'm going to put the hand at the base of the hand. Now we move to the next, sorry, I advanced a frame accidentally there. Now we can move to the next peg. This is the, oh wait, this was the right arm. I really should look at which layer is currently active when we're doing this, and light table only works when we're using our drawing tools or painting tools, but I can see how that hand is now the active one. I move to the next limb, that is now the next layer. So now I'm going to pull down and put in the elbow. Move to the arm, we'll attach it at the shoulder. Move to the next hand, put that at the wrist. Move to the lower arm, put that at the elbow. Move to the upper arm, put that at the shoulder. The head, typically we attach the head kind of at where the base of the neck would be, so then the head can move and animate as we want. So we kind of think about, where is the head attaching to the neck. Torso, I'm going to put kind of at the belly button. All right, so now I've set all of my pivot points. And this is good, but now if I decide I want to animate an arm, so let's say I'm going to move this arm, and it animates. It doesn't stay together. So we need to do something about that. So if I want it to stay together, I need to then continue my parent-child relationships. And we can do that in a couple of different ways. Eventually we're going to be switching into what is called node view, where we have all of the nodes of our project, and I'm just going to spread those out here. So each of these, so red means the layer is turned off. We don't see it. Oh, I did make a bone layer when I clicked once. I didn't realize it. So we can see how all these different layers, oh, okay, I'm just off on my undos there. Get rid of that. But we have a connection. So the composite is what our camera sees. So we have our different layers. We have the different pegs that are connecting them, and we can see they're all children of the master peg. So we're going to learn about the node view more on coming projects, but right now we're going to try and keep things a little bit simpler. That's debatable, but it is. And we're going to start establishing some parent-child relationships. So what we know is the hand is a child of the lower arm, so I drag that onto the lower arm. The lower arm is a child of the upper arm. Okay. Now the hand is the child of the lower arm is a child of the upper arm, and this would be the same thing if you had legs. Now, all of these are going to be children of the torso. And this is where the node view does give us more control, because we can more easily control what layer is on top and which layer is not. So for now, what I'm going to recommend is we just do parent-child with the arms. We have the master peg if we want to now move our whole character. So if I want to start my character leaning this way, and then he's going to move in this way, the head will turn, the arms will move, and do all of that. We can start animating all of that. That will be the easiest way to control it, so we don't have to get too crazy with our node view. But now if we look at the node view, we'll actually see there's fewer lines coming out of the master peg, because now from the master peg it goes to the upper arm to the lower arm goes to the hand. So we can see how that relationship is visualized here in our node view. I think the node view visually can be a little bit easier to see, but it is something that it's also abstract as well. So we're just going to work with our character like this. So now our character only lives for one frame, so let's extend it out. So I've collapsed on the master peg. I go to frame 60 and then function F5, that extends it out. Now I'm going to go back to frame 1 here, and then I am going to take and rotate. I'm going to start out leaning a little bit this way, and then what I want to do is to then switch to the head. So now if I click off and then click on one of my other layers, I want to make sure that I have in my, if I'm using the rotate tool, or even better, I'm going to use the transform tool for animation, I want to make sure that I have peg selection mode activated, so that then when I click on something, it's choosing that peg. Notice if I click now on the arm, the whole arm is selected. If I click on the arm, whole arm is selected. So that's going to work out well for me. So now, well, I don't want to translate. I want to, now I can rotate the whole arm. So now I'm at frame 1. Now if I'm just going to go out a few frames. I'm going to select the whole character. I'm going to tilt the whole character. So now we can see it's a motion keyframe. It's moving. But as he's moving, what I want to do is to now take this arm. I'm going to rotate that up. And take the head. And I want to rotate it back this way. And then I'll grab this arm here. Oh, I don't want to move it. I just wanted to rotate it. I'm going to go grab at the forearm, go out. So now we can see how the character is starting to animate. Something else to keep in mind, we wouldn't see the legs move, but we could simulate walking just by bobbing the character up and down, because I didn't show all of the lower body. We don't necessarily have to animate all of it to make it appear that the character is doing some sort of walk. So now if I move out a little bit, so we can see how it moved somewhat, and now I'm going to pull the head back, and I'm going to rotate this arm down, I'm going to rotate this arm down, click on the forearm, rotate that. And as we do that, you can see how the character is animating. Now you'll notice in the timeline, we don't see the line in between, but it still is tweening that in between frame for us. And the reason we don't see it is we have to look at all the layers, and it only is going to show the motion line between keyframes if all of the sublayers are indeed animating. But when we extend everything out, we'll see that's not always going to be the case as we look at our different layers. So all of our keyframes are showing up on pegs. They're not showing up on individual layers or individual drawings. They're only showing up on our peg layers, and that's what we want to see happen. So we want to see that happen just on the peg layers. So now I can collapse this again. We can go out a few frames here, and now with the master peg selected, I am going to slide our character over a little bit. We're going to move here. So now we can see the character is moving. That's my anticipatory movement. And now I'm going to slide over a little bit more, rotate back up. But as I do this, when I get to this frame, actually I want to go one frame before that, and now I'm going to take the head and rotate the head over. I can now take this arm, I'm going to rotate it up. And now I want to rotate it up a lot. I'm going to go over 2 frames, rotate more at the elbow, go over another frame, rotate at the hand. So I'm staging the movements. I'm not rotating all of it. And then I'm going to wait a few frames here. Now if I want everything to kind of start over so that I don't have other motions continuing, what I can sometimes do is hold down the function key. Well, I have to hold function key, I'm on a laptop, but I want to hit the function key F6. That inserts a keyframe for everything. So now everything has a keyframe. here. They're all keyframed. We don't have any gaps, because now from that point, if I go to the next keyframe, then when I do my movement, it's not going to be continuing. It's only going to start. So, which, oh, we probably need to make that happen a little slower because that's really fast. And now that's up, so both arms are up. I'm going to go over a few frames. Now I'll pull this arm down, grab the forearm. I want to straighten the arm out a little bit more. So if I click off and then click on the one I'm trying to select, so we can see in my artwork here, I do have to be careful right now. And there's some ways that we can send so this arm goes behind, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So now I've been able to, once I made the artwork, the actual animation part is going pretty quick. Okay, when I say pretty quick, it's actually going too quick. So from here, I'm going to slow these down a little bit so I can just take those keyframes, pull them out, pull it out, pull it out. Now let's see. That's a little bit better. So we can see the arms as they're coming down are going down slower. So it's about timing. It's about controlling that timing of movement so that you create the experience, the look, the feel that you're looking for.